Hi there, very good morning to you. Time to welcome you once again to another edition of Voices on Win FM 98.9. Voices comes your way, compliments Rams Trading and Flow.
Fruta, taste the real Fruta, enjoy the real Fruta, refreshing juice of every day. Whoa, Fruta, drink the real Fruta, your favorite Fruta, the natural taste is Fruta. Fruta.
Your favorite fruit has got a new skin. With real juice within, drink the real Fruta. Enjoy the real joy.
Taste the real Fruta, enjoy the real Fruta, refreshing juice of every day is Fruta.
Fruta, juiced right.
Flow helps you stay connected to what matters. Simple plans and a better network mean that you can enjoy 30 days of unlimited social messaging, 10 gigabytes of reliable data to use as you like, and 1,000 local anywhere calls and texts. With the always-on prepaid plan, all for $100. Keep your number when you switch to St. Kitts' most reliable LTE network. Switch to Flow. It only gets better.
Well, once again, a very good morning to you. Welcome to Voices. And Voices, we listen to your take on events and issues of the day, whether they're happening in St. Kitts and Nevis in the wider Caribbean or, other parts of the world. And we take calls from everywhere, from the US of A, from neighboring islands, from on St. Kitts and Nevis as well. And we give you a chance to express yourself. And, of course, we hope to learn something from the discussion, and of course we do sometimes beg to disagree. We try to do so in an agreeable fashion, but you get a chance to express yourself on Voices where we exchange views and insights. This is where we have our conversation on matters of importance to the public. So our numbers are 4660989, 6620989, 7620989. Our overseas numbers are 0333 344 0065. We have 718-285-6984 and 305-921-4619. And those numbers are on our website, www.winnfm.com. We're on Facebook and on YouTube as well. And, of course, we have an open forum today, so you can give us a call. Let us know what's on your mind. And once again, we say thank you so much to Rams and Flow.
Here comes the sun.
Sun quick.
Here comes the sun.
Sun quick.
Sunny flavors for everyone. Natural, tasty, full of vitamin C. The drink for the whole family. It's Sun Quick. Sun Quick Drink Concentrate gives you 40 glasses. 9 delicious flavors to choose from.
Orange tropical mango.
Peach orange, orange apricot, black currant.
Apple. Red orange. Red fruit.
Bursting with vitamin C.
Sun quick.
Natural, tasty, full of vitamin C. The drink for the whole family. It's Sun Quick.
Flow's new combo plan, the people's plan. Combo. That's a new combo plan. You can call anyone, no matter which network you they on. Just use your Flow.
I want a combo, but not for my belly. I feel me cell phone, so me call anybody. Call Mr. Man, call Granny. On the island, Flow, come, boom.
Yes, there is no need for to force no more. Cause it Flow combo plan, you're paying less for more.
Flow got a new combo plan. You can call anyone, no matter which network you they on. Just use your Flow.
Dial star 129 number sign to activate your combo plan today.
Well, the phone lines are pretty quiet at the moment. Well, yesterday at the briefing of the National Emergency Operations Center, Ms. Colleen Morton, the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Tourism, gave an update on the tourism sector in the context of what the ministry as well as the Tourism Authority, what are the plans for tourism. As we know, as we speak now, several hotels are closed, the major hotels, the Marriott closed, and hundreds of people have been sent home. And some are unemployed, remain unemployed. Some are receiving social assistance from the Social Security, from the Economic Stimulus Program, from the PAP, the People the Poverty Alleviation Program. There's STEP people as well. Her report was quite interesting. We're going to share this with you in case you missed it. If you heard it before, you can hear it again. So right now in Voices, we're going to play that report given by the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Tourism, Ms. Carleen Morton.
Public and with our stakeholders in particular, our efforts to keep operations up and running, our efforts at staying engaged with cruise and airline partners, and generally to share the preparations that are being made to pivot post-COVID-19. I also want to take this opportunity to commend the COVID-19 task force on the exceptional job that they have been doing in coordinating efforts to keep us all informed during this crisis. This is a hard time in the travel and tourism industry. This is an industry that thrives on that basic human need for social interaction. It is essentially about movement of people across borders and within communities. Unfortunately, so is the coronavirus, COVID-19, which takes advantage of the movement of people to spread death, destruction, and despair. To stop the spread of COVID, the necessary response globally has been to restrict movement and to close borders. The complete opposite of what we do in tourism. The tagline in the industry is, stay home, stop the spread, save lives, so we can travel again. This last tag is critically important and very optimistic in outlook, so all is not lost. In the Federation, the situation is fluid, evolving, and being regularly monitored and assessed. But to date, our borders remain closed in the best interest of the health of our citizens and of our guests. Sadly, this unprecedented crisis has destabilized the hospitality and tourism sector and is disrupting the lives and livelihoods of thousands of our stakeholders and service providers in the industry. However, strategic and innovative planning and action, not paranoia, panic, or pessimism, must be our best response in this crisis. We want to assure all concerned that operations at the Ministry of Tourism and at the St. Kitts Tourism Authority have not ground to a halt. We continue to dialogue with cruise and airline partners and to give them every assurance that our tourism stakeholders are preparing to continue delivering world-class service post-COVID-19. We have adopted a very balanced and systematic approach to managing this crisis as it unfolds, while putting systems in place to welcome our guests and ensure a smooth return to a vibrant and competitive industry as soon as it is safe to do so. Our marketing activities continue, focusing on the following: ongoing crisis communication, so we update the travel and tourism industry via press releases, our website, e-blasts to our databases as per any OC briefings. For example, we give the number of confirmed and recovered cases, travel alerts and restrictions, airline flights and information related to the state of emergency, lockdown and release days, etc. Inspirational marketing is also ongoing through posts and destination marketing videos. One in particular has come out, and it was released around mid-May. I think I saw another new one this today sometime on Facebook. We use Instagram, we use LinkedIn and Twitter. Once our borders are reopened and travel alerts lifted, our marketing campaigns for all channels will go live to stimulate bookings in all source markets. Marketing activities will focus first on previous visitors to St. Kitts, currently in our database, Then to those individuals who have shown intent by clicking on digital ads via Facebook, Instagram, TripAdvisor, Google, pay-per-click, and other digital tools that we are using for marketing the destination. During the recovery phase, our first focus will be on attracting leisure travelers, stayovers. Stayovers will assist in earning revenue for hotels, beach bars, restaurants, retail stores, tours to sites and attractions. Focus will be placed first on the US and Canada markets due to likely airlift frequency by AE, then onto the UK. I want to assure everyone as well that the ministry staff is operating on shifts from 8 to 11:30 and then 11:30 to 3:30, strictly observing the physical distancing and other health protocols, of course. We remain available and at your service. The Ministry of Tourism will also begin to roll out a survey of all stakeholders shortly to capture their feedback about the impacts of COVID-19 on the operations. Stakeholders, you will have the option of completing it online or by phone with assistance from one of our officers. We appeal to you all to respond as quickly as you can, as your responses are critical to assessing your needs and making informed decisions at this time. We urge the general public to stay tuned as well to hear our plans to reformat Restaurant Week and other programs which we deliver, so that we are able to engage you using virtual platforms such as Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and others. Additionally, staff both at the ministry and at Eco Park have been enrolled in a number of tourism-related online courses, and over the next few months, we will be retooling and sharpening our skills in preparation for what we feel is going to be a new tourism landscape when the industry does rebound. A little advice for our stakeholders, if we may. We take this opportunity to offer some similar advice. Using this downtime, you can perhaps begin to do some minor infrastructural improvements to your property where you can, to create or to update your business websites. Become more familiar with how to use technology to market your businesses and to recruit new customers by offering more convenient ways to book ahead. Regularly post videos and updates on our iconic sites and attractions, for example, ongoing upgrades that are taking place at Black Rocks, at Cockleshell, and at Eco Park. Stay in touch with guests who would have enjoyed your services in the past. Look for opportunities to form partnerships with other businesses in the industry, for example, restaurants with farmers, taxis with tour guides, so you design unique and exciting packages for the season ahead. Repurpose your business where you can, so you keep yourself and others employed and bring in some level of revenue. Just yesterday I heard Pearson Trade speaking about businesses that are now making hand sanitizers. Many of us have been purchasing them. Some are making masks. Others are offering delivery services for supermarkets and restaurants who are offering takeaway. And I want to implore us as consumers to support these businesses. And you can also use the time that you have on your hands now to flesh out those ideas that you may have been putting on the back burner for quite some time. What about very affordable staycations, day and weekend passes, or other special packages for locals? Even when restrictions are lifted, travel is not likely to kick in immediately. Let's take a serious look at how we can entice the local market to explore and discover the destination. We are also advising that you begin now to mentally prepare for your operations in the early days of the recovery. It won't be business as usual. The industry will have to be very proactive and very conscious about basic health and wellness practices. Keep sanitizers handy, regularly clean door handles and seats, control the number of persons on your vehicles and in public spaces. These are the things that will reassure our guests that we are a responsible destination, taking every precaution to keep them and ourselves safe. These These are just a few strategies that should help to tide you over, keep you a few steps ahead, and keep the destination competitive when the industry begins to rebound. The global tourism community continues to rally together, and the industry has proven to be very resilient and robust in the face of terrorism, natural disasters, and other crises. So there is still much room for hope, even as we endure and keep our distance. For now. Predictions are that the Caribbean will be among the first to rebound. We have comparatively fewer COVID-19 cases and deaths, combined with the offerings of our exciting and exotic eco and adventure tourism products that easily allow for social distancing. Over the past 5 years, our tourism product has done exceptionally well. Phenomenal growth in both cruise and stayovers. We received several accolades and recorded a number of milestone achievements. We will not lose that momentum. We stick together in the good times and the not so good times. When this pandemic is over, we will be ready to welcome eager travelers again and share with them this awesome island that we all call home. Thanks for your attention. Stay informed and stay safe. I have the CEO, Ms. Raquel Brown, here with me from the St. Kitts Tourism Authority, and we will await any questions that may come up at the end. Thank you.
We're different. We're 98.9. 98.9. Win FM.
Your tune to Win FM is 90.9. We do apologize for that sudden ending of that particular presentation there. That's entirely our fault. We do apologize to you and, of course, to Mr. Morton as well, who made a presentation. Well, there you had it, the presentation from the Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Tourism, outlining, of course, what's happening now, preparations now for the reopening of the borders and rebuilding the tourism plant, and offering some advice as to perhaps maybe some new opportunities and new approaches, as the emphasis will be, of course, on personal hygiene and health, and, of course, trying to keep people confident that they'll be better off coming to St. Kitts and Nevis for a holiday than going almost anywhere else. So you have to have that element of confidence, that element of trust, and, of course, a good experience to back all that up when the person actually gets here and when the people actually get to the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis as well. Notice as well is that since the COVID-19 scenario, the Christian community responded by having more virtual meetings. We want to offer compliments to the Catholic Church, the Methodist Church, and other churches as well, who arranged recordings of their church services and offered it on radio and Win FM 90.9 and other stations, so people can still be a part of the community and still feel that they're connected without having to break curfew, without having to resist the advice of social distancing and that sort of thing. So I've noticed a piece on PBS about COVID and religion, and I thought it was quite interesting how leaders of three different religions, Hindu, Muslim, and Christian, spoke about the issue of COVID and its impact on religion. I want to play that clip for you. It's from PBS NewsHour, and here we go.
Throughout the pandemic, restrictions on social gatherings have forced those who celebrate Easter, Passover, and Ramadan to find new ways to practice their faith. And we wanted to explore how the coronavirus is changing places of worship with three faith leaders. Reverend Tim Cole serves as rector for Christ Church, Georgetown. He was the District of Columbia's first confirmed coronavirus case. Brigida Rosenberg is the senior rabbi at United Hebrew Congregation in St. Louis, Missouri. And Imam Khalid Latif is the executive director of the Islamic Center at New York University. And we welcome all three of you to the program. Reverend Tim Cole, let me begin with you. How has this time changed the way you worship? What is different? What's lost?
Well, of course, a huge amount is lost in the physical proximity of being together. Worship, as we understand it, has two main dimensions. It has a horizontal dimension where people are gathered in the community, and of course, there's a vertical dimension in terms of our relationship with God. But so what we've had to do is adapt, and we've started to do, as many churches have done, virtual services. We have a daily morning prayer, which is read by different members of the congregation around the city from their own living rooms. So it's rather lovely. You can see families taking part in the daily prayer of the church. And on Sunday, of course, we have a similar offering, but with a sermon and with music. Our choir has been able to record some beautiful pieces of music to go with that. So we're doing the very best we can, as I'm sure everyone else is.
Imam Latif, what about you? This is, of course, we're in the holy month of Ramadan. What's lost? What's different now?
So much about Ramadan is communal. As much as the fast that we have from dawn till dusk is an individual practice, much ritual in Islam blends communal aspects and draws itself towards social equity. And so where people traditionally would be breaking their fast at sunset with family and friends, or going to community gatherings or interfaith settings, city officials hosting iftars, now many are at home. If they have family with them or roommates, they might break fast together, but many are doing it on their own. And so what we've done, similar to the Reverend, shifted a lot of our programming online. We are doing things from 5 in the morning till about 10 or 11 at night, scattered throughout the day to really meet the diverse needs of our community at this time. And what we've also done is created a lot of online campaigns to crowdfund to help people who have been financially impacted by the pandemic, and to assure that, especially within our month of fasting, where we can help individuals of whatever background, we'll do our part to be a source of healing at this time.
And Rabbi Rosenberg, April has been the month of Passover for Jews in America. How has what you're doing and what you've done changed during this period?
Certainly, as we just heard from my two colleagues, that we've really had to, in the same way, take things online and do them virtually. Certainly with regard to Passover, there is such a communal aspect to Passover, just as there is to Ramadan, especially the meals that are held together. And so many families could not do that and gather generationally. So many places brought the Seder meals online and brought the opportunity for people to be together. And I would say that the virtual world has really become such a lifeline for so many people, especially those who are home by themselves. And, there isn't anybody else there. And being able to come online, not just for worship, but, to offer study, to offer conversation, just as we've heard, we're finding ways to just bring the congregation and bring community and connection to people in a variety of ways.
And Reverend Cole, what is it that people are seeking right now in your congregation? Are you finding they are asking, they're reaching out to you more? Are they able to express their needs?
Yes, I think so. And it's been rather wonderful, actually. I've been sick, so my colleague, Crystal Harden, has been holding the fort here and done a fantastic job. But it's rather wonderful what's happened. There's been a flowering, if you like, a blossoming of community. throughout this period, where people have reached out to their neighbours and their fellow parishioners even more than they normally do. We've had networks of phone chains across the parish.
And I should have said at the outset, we are so glad to see you looking so well after what you went through. Imam Latif, what about you? Are you finding people who are part of who are part of Islam who you work with, who you know? Are they reaching out more? Is it harder for them to reach out? What are you finding?
Every day we're getting contacted by Muslims as well as people of other faiths who are just really trying to figure out how to make sense of it all. I think the challenges that experience tends to be quite diverse, and with difficulties like this, we see a lot of revelations of various kinds that can help us to be compelled to doing our part. Because even in our month of fasting, Ramadan, it's not in a vacuum. There's a pandemic in the background, and the purpose of ritual in our tradition is to elevate consciousness and bring people to take on social ills. So where we see people on the front lines or essential workers who every day are meeting the virus and displaying real goodness and beauty.
And Rabbi Rosenberg, what are you hearing from people who are part of your synagogue, of the group of people who you would normally be reaching out to right now, or who would reach out to you?
You know, I'm definitely hearing that people are missing the physicality of being together, and the virtual works, but sometimes it doesn't work for everything. You know, one of the things that we're having to do is adapt and adjust. You know, this is a time where there are rituals that we can't necessarily do. So funerals look different right now. Weddings look different. Bar and bat mitzvah services look different because we cannot gather in the ways that we once did.
And finally, I want to ask each one of you, how do you offer hope to people at a time like this, when there is a lot of despair? We're mourning people who are lost. Reverend Cole, what is your message to people who say, I don't see the good in this?
Well, I think there is a lot of fear around, isn't there? Fear of sickness, fear of loss of livelihood, fear of just an uncertain future. And I think there are three things that help us with fear. One is humor. It's important to be able to keep a sense of humor about the things as much as we can. But more importantly, there is comradeship. There is the friendship and the close ties that we have. When I was in hospital, the fact that people were praying for me made it much harder to be afraid when I knew there were so many people standing beside me. So reaching out to those people who care for us and love us. And finally, of course, that's trust in the faithfulness of God, you know, who has promised to us all that he will see us through whatever it is we have to face. So I think those are the things that certainly helped me in my time in hospital. And thinking of Easter, you know, that's the pattern that repeats again and again. You know, we are in a dark place, we're in a period of waiting, and then there is new beginnings and new life. And I pray this whole country and the world will get to that point with this crisis and this virus too.
Words to remember. Imam Latif, what about you? What do you offer what can you offer in the way of hope?
You know, I think building off of everything that the Reverend is saying, where individuals are looking for a sense of hope, manifest that first step of empathizing, being a mode of support, but then taking it to a level of helping to fulfill needs, where people are struggling in their day-to-day because they literally have no money. They have lost jobs, they have no benefits, and they don't know how to put food on the table. We have people who are spreading hope to people of all backgrounds in New York City as Muslim volunteers are going out and providing meals to people, delivering it to their homes, making an opportunity for individuals to feel as if they're not forgotten or left behind by launching these campaigns that we have. We've already in the last 3 weeks, as a university-based Islamic center, raised over $1 million to assist people in need. And going into our month of fasting, our most recent campaign that's raised $300,000 in the last week or so has already sent checks to about 70 New Yorkers in 25 homes of various backgrounds, not just of our faith, to not simply speak hope, but to manifest hope, to manifest love, to manifest mercy in actions that say that in an unprecedented time, stepping up means also stepping out and just doing for others what you can so that you are the reason they have hope in this world and never the reason they might dread it.
And Rabbi Rosenberg, finally, I'm hearing more that the three of you have in common, that your faiths have in common, than I think people might expect.
And the one thing that I would say and that I often look to when we talk about hope is stopping and recognizing the little blessings, or what I call the little silver linings that come out of this, because there are those days where, you know, we are so fearful or we feel like this is never going to end, and yet there are these little moments of blessing when somebody reaches out to us, or when we reach out to somebody else, or we just stop and recognize we can take a breath, some of us, in this moment in ways that we never were able to do before. So it's just stopping and finding those small blessings in life.
And that report there from PBS NewsHour. And three leaders of religion, Muslim faith, Jewish faith, and of course Christianity, discussing the impact of COVID-19 on worship. You're tuned to Win FM, it's 90.9. You're listening to Voices, and Voices comes your way, compliments Rams Training and Flow.
Flow helps you stay connected to what matters. Simple plans and a better network mean that you can enjoy 30 days of unlimited social messaging, 10 gigabytes of reliable data to use as you like, and 1,000 local anywhere calls and texts with the always-on prepaid plan, all for $100. Keep your number when you switch to St. Kitts' most reliable LTE network. Switch to Flow. It only gets better.
You're tuning in with FM, it's 90.9 on your dial. You're in Voices and having a look around at what's happening. We spoke a bit earlier on and, of course, offered some insight on worship in the age of COVID, if you want to call it that. And, of course, we heard from Mrs. Colleen Morton about tourism and what's being done, preparatory steps, if you like, words of advice, and giving an update on what is happening in the sector. You're tuning to Voices on Win FM 98.9. Now, the Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis also has been doing his bit to basically let people know more about what's happening on St. Kitts and Nevis. He was interviewed on the BBC, and here's a bit of what he had to say about St. Kitts and Nevis.
Now, the islands of St. Kitts and Nevis have confirmed its first recovered case of COVID-19, leaving the number of active cases there now at 14. With a population of just 56,000, it is the smallest country in the Western Hemisphere and has reported no deaths from the virus. Tourism, of course, represents much of the country's income, but radical measures including turning away cruise ships and restricting the inflow of tourists appear to have showed the spread or slowed the spread of the virus there. We can go to Dr. Timothy Harris, Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis, who joins us live now. Thanks for joining us on BBC News. What is the situation there at the moment, Dr. Harris?
Well, at this moment today in St. Kitts, we are observing a 24-hour lockdown. Tomorrow, we get back into a sense of more relaxation where we will in the day, allow for some flexibility of movement, and in the night, we return to the night curfews.
Just explain how how is the 24-hour curfew work then? I mean, have people been kept in their houses, or have they been allowed out for shopping and essential supplies?
24-hour lockdown, no movement. The recommendation is that people stay within their home for that period of time. In the period of relaxed curfew, you are allowed to go to shops, pharmacies, and do the necessaries.
And how have people responded to that?
Well, it's a new living for us in St. Kitts and Nevis, and I want to commend the discipline of the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. They understand that we are in a changing world, a very difficult world, and each one has to play a part. So the response has been extremely good so far.
Is this because you haven't got the medical facilities on the islands to deal with a large outbreak? I mean, how many ventilators, how many intensive care units do you have there?
What I would say is that at this point, we are at the strongest position. We have adequate ventilators for this particular period of time. We have been able to invest in ventilators. So as we speak today, we have about 6 times the stock that we had before the arrival of COVID in St. Kitts and Nevis. Our health system is not being overwhelmed. And the reason is that we took strong measures early and we prepared well for this. But
tourism is the lifeblood, isn't it, of your economy? Be turning away cruise ships. What is the economic knock-on impacts of this? And are you going to get any bailout?
Well, the economic impact in St. Kitts and Nevis has been as severe as it is for the rest of the world. Tourism is a large but not the only segment of the economy, and in that regard, we have had significant loss of jobs. However, because we had been managing the country well, we developed a significant financial surplus, and we were able, therefore, to do a stimulus in the region of $120 million, targeting at the victims of COVID-19 and setting a framework to get the country back to work soonest.
And when do you think that might be?
Well, of course, we are doing all within our power to get St. Kitts ready for when the world is ready for engagement. You are aware that some of our principal countries with which we engage for tourists, for goods, United States of America and Europe, they are basically now in a crisis situation. We have been fortunate, no deaths, no significant, no hospitalization at this point in time. And we are working a plan jointly in accordance with WHO rules to get our country back to work and ready for day one.
Okay, well, Timothy Harris, Prime Minister of
And that interview done, I think, on the 22nd of April with the BBC and Prime Minister Dr. Timothy Harris, letting people know what is happening on St. Kitts and Nevis. Of course, St. Kitts and Nevis was the last country to have a confirmed case of the coronavirus in this part of the world. There was also another interview done by the Prime Minister. This interview was done with Sky, and we're going to play that as well for you.
The island country of St. Kitts and Nevis in the Caribbean has seen no deaths from COVID-19. Only 15 people there have been diagnosed and none needed to go to hospital. In spite of this, the virus is still taking its toll on one of its main sources of income, tourism. And joining me now is the Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis, Dr. Timothy Harris. Dr. Harris, first of all, thank you for being with us. Why is it, do you think, that you have been able to have such a relatively mild outbreak of coronavirus?
I think, first of all, I want to commend our health planners who very early saw the pandemic evolving and took steps, set structures in place, began an effective public education program, and the results of which we are now being able to see with the mild infection rates we are seeing in my country of St. Kitts and Nevis.
And how's that reflected across your Caribbean neighbours?
Well, across the Caribbean region, of course, we all challenge at different levels. But overall, I think, relative to some other regions, certainly relative to Europe, the Caribbean is doing reasonably well.
And one of the things presumably that you had to do was effectively shut down tourism and visitors.
That has been the reality of the world everywhere. In the context of a need to prevent the transmission, very early we took a decision to impose travel advisory and then ultimately to close our border to incoming traffic from abroad. The cases we have had have been import related, and so that become a necessity if we were to protect our people and our residents. We are working hard though, using this time to prepare for the eventual re-engagement with the world and to offer those who come the most awesome experience in St. Kitts and Nevis.
Yeah, I mean, because given the importance of tourism to you and to others in the Caribbean, this must be having a very severe economic impact, is it?
It is significant in terms of its impact. In fact, the whole world is being destabilized, and tourism-dependent countries are most significantly disadvantaged. We have thousands of persons put on the breadline. We have responded very quickly with a stimulus package that is providing income support to those persons who have been engaged in the tourism and other sectors impacted. So we are doing what we can internally do to keep the economy moving, ensure our public infrastructure program can at least boost in jobs in construction sector.
If you look around the world, the outbreaks are still very much close to peak in Europe and in the United States. So when do you think you're going to be wanting to welcome visitors from those countries?
Well, that is something that is a moving target. There's no vaccine. The safety of our people must come first, and that must come before every other consideration. Indeed, it not only behoves that all of us do what we can, because even if St. Kitts does continue to do as good as we are doing, and the rest of the world is lagging behind, then there will be no tourism. And so all of us globally have to be working in hand to achieve the goal of getting our societies back to normalcy or as near normal as soon as we conveniently can. And that is a priority now in St. Kitts and Nevis.
I mean, sadly for tourism, it looks like many months yet before it's going to get going, doesn't it?
It looks so. It looks so. And what it does is that it gives us time to deal with the health imperatives of a new brand of tourism, a new brand of tourism product, which we now have to offer, and to prepare our people, reorienting them to a new engagement with the people where health is going to be a principal concern as we open our borders in the future to the arrivals of guests who come to enjoy and experience our culture and all the other assets that we have.
What would that sort of shape of that new brand of tourism, as you call it, be?
Well, that is still something that has to be, is in a state of development by our tourism planners. But certainly you are going to see increased efforts in managing where tourists go, visiting destinations, managing the kind of contact that one would have. How, for example, we move from a very intimate, touchy society to one in which some measure of social distancing would still need to be observed. How do we protect those workers in our hotel industry who are going to be very close up? How do we ensure that the natural assets that we have in our country are marketed appropriately, and those become some of the principal destinations that will now draw the tourists that is coming for leisure. So those are some areas that we are looking at.
Dr. Timothy Harris, the Prime Minister of Nevis and St. Kitts, thank you very much indeed for joining us.
Well, an interview there with the Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis, Dr. Timothy Harris, and Sky News. As we speak now, the coronavirus cases worldwide is now 3.25 million. We've had over 250,000 deaths so far and over 1 million recoveries. When you look at the source markets for tourism as well, the figures are quite frightening. The US of A has now got over 1 million cases of 1 million confirmed cases of COVID, and you've had over 62,000 deaths in the US of A, or the United States of America if you prefer. Spain comes in at number 2 in this unfortunate list. Over 250,000 people confirmed with COVID-19. They've lost close to 25,000 lives. Italy has lost 27,000 plus lives, and just below 250,000 people confirmed with COVID-19. The UK, which is the source market for the Caribbean, has over 165,000 confirmed cases of COVID-19, and they've had close to 7,000 deaths related to COVID-19 as well. We also have for you the latest report from the health sector pertaining to COVID-19 in St. Kitts and Nevis. This report given last evening by the Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Hazel Laws.
With 204, 987 deaths. To date, 293 persons have been sampled and tested, with 15 confirmed positive, 271 confirmed negative, and 7 results pending. This afternoon, I want to inform you that 6 confirmed cases have recovered. I repeat, 6 confirmed cases have recovered. To date, we have 0 deaths. Currently, 5 persons are quarantined in a government facility, while 55 persons are quarantined at home. 9 persons remain in isolation, while 688 persons have been released from quarantine. While there is currently no cure for coronavirus, there are some steps everyone can take to help support their natural defenses against viruses like this one. The body's immune system is what helps to fight off these pathogens. There are a number of ways in which you can support your own immune system to make it as strong and effective as possible, including the following. Eat more fruits, vegetables, and leafy greens. Fruits and vegetables contain high levels of antioxidants and nutrients, which boost the production of cells which support the immune system. Aim to consume at least 3 servings of fruits and vegetables daily. Number 2, get more sleep. While we sleep, our body repairs and builds our immune system to fight off viruses. Aim to get at least 6 to 8 hours of sleep daily. Sunshine increases vitamin D. Our body creates vitamin D from direct sunlight on our skin when we are outdoors.
So some advice there from Dr. Hazel Laws, the Chief Medical Officer, offered last evening on the NEOC Daily Briefing. Another report that caught my attention as well, an Al Jazeera report on what's happening with Europe in terms of the economic outlook and what are some of the challenges facing the Europeans at the moment. We will play that for you now.
This is Al Jazeera.
We start in Europe, where the economy has suffered its biggest quarterly hit on record, shrinking by 3.8% so far this year. That's the Eurozone's sharpest drop since records began in 1995. It's yet another indicator of the widespread economic devastation caused by the coronavirus lockdowns around the world. Well, it comes after Germany, which is Europe's strongest economy, announced its GDP is on track to shrink by more than 6% this year. Well, Ian Begg is a professional research fellow at the European Institute at the London School of Economics. He joins us now from London via Skype. Good to have you with us. So first of all, I'm sure you've seen these latest economic figures. Are we getting, if we take the unemployment figure, which I think has gone up for the EU countries by 1%, are we getting the real unemployment figure if you take into consideration all of that financial aid that's been, pumped into the system to keep workers on payrolls?
Not yet, because unemployment tends to occur later than the economic downturn. To begin with, companies hold on to employees, but what you can expect to see next is a wave of redundancies being made in many industries that are locked down, and also amongst small businesses in the service sector, which are the basis of a high proportion of employment in many European countries. Don't forget that in the likes of France or the United Kingdom, the number of people employed in manufacturing is under 10% of the total. Far more are employed in retailing, in restaurants and other leisure activities, or in tourism. So we can expect much worse news coming in relation to unemployment. At the same time, it's worth noting that several countries have adopted policies to try to shore up or mitigate that unemployment rise by keeping people on shorter working time. That's Germany's Kurzarbeit system, or finding ways to furlough employees rather than render them completely unemployed. So these are policy responses that we expect to come within a reasonable amount of time to try to limit the adverse effect.
What is the risk of short-term unemployment really turning into long-term unemployment?
Well, it's very severe, because if the result of the economic crisis that we're going through, and let's be clear on this, nobody really knows what happens after the current quarter, whether it's going to be a bounce back or a prolonged recession. It could be a V-shaped recession, which is down and then up again, or it could be down and then flat for a while. And if it's flat for a while, that's going to mean very high levels of unemployment, because people simply wouldn't be taken back onto the books of companies.
And it's not just the unemployment figures that are worrying, right? If you look at economic growth, debt, all the indicators seem to be going in the wrong direction right now. How easy, what is it going to take to get all of these indicators going in the right direction again?
Well, there's a very cruel paradox at the heart of this, which is that governments need to slow down the economy to contain the virus. This is a deliberate recession. It's not something like the financial crisis when it came out of the blue. And the challenge for governments is to work out exactly when to press the button to re-stimulate the economy, having closed it down. That's going to be very difficult, because it's balancing the health imperatives with the economic imperatives. I would expect it to occur as quickly as possible from the health perspective, because so many governments are increasingly worried about the economic damage that's being done.
The Spanish Health Ministry has recorded 268 new coronavirus deaths. That, along with 518 new infections, have been reported. It's the lowest daily increase in new cases since Spain declared a state of emergency 6 weeks ago on March the 14th. In the UK this hour, Prime Minister Boris Johnson is expected to lead his first weekly cabinet meeting since falling ill with the coronavirus. He and his senior ministers are under added pressure after new figures released on Wednesday pushed the number of deaths there to more than 26,000.
That report there from Al Jazeera. Now, Bloomberg also has a report on the Caribbean, and the report is titled Puerto Rico 2.0. Wall Street warns of Caribbean debt crisis. And that's a report from Bloomberg News that we thought we'd share with you today as well.
Puerto Rico 2.0? Wall Street warns of Caribbean debt crises. The Caribbean countries of Barbados, Belize and the Bahamas, among the preferred playgrounds for the world's wealthiest bankers, may soon become known instead for Wall Street's dark side, debt crises. The three nations are some of the most exposed to the sudden stop in global tourism due to the coronavirus pandemic. And after decade-long borrowing sprees, they're also staring down big bond payments, raising concern over how the Caribbean region can repay its debt. This pandemic shock is unlike any shock that these sovereigns have seen in their history, said Julia Smith, a Toronto-based analyst at S&P Global Ratings. Tourism in the Caribbean will probably decline by 60% to 70% from April to December compared with last year, according to S&P. The ratings company downgraded the Bahamas and Belize last week, and it lowered credit outlooks in Aruba, Belize, the Dominican Republic and Jamaica to negative. Junk bonds. Marla Ducaran, an economist in Barbados, calls it a once-per-century shock for the Caribbean. She said even in the most optimistic scenario, the region will lose about 50% of its tourist revenue this year. That will weigh heavily on the Caribbean's roughly $80 billion foreign debt load. Some of the largest reported holders of those notes include BlackRock Incorporated, AllianceBernstein, Pacific Investment Management Company, Goldman Sachs Group Incorporated and J.P. Morgan Chase & Company, although the regional exposure is just a fraction of their total assets under management. Officials at BlackRock, Goldman Sachs and J.P. Morgan declined to comment. Pramil Dhawan, PIMCO's head of emerging market portfolio management, said differentiation is key. He highlighted the Dominican Republic's strong balance sheet and request for rapid financing from the International Monetary Fund. Katrina Butt, AllianceBernstein's senior Latin America economist, said there's value in some Caribbean nations like Jamaica and the Dominican Republic, which benefit from ample fiscal space and bigger reserve buffers. The smaller islands in the region have much more limited buffers, she said. Deja vu? It's too soon to say whether the damage will rival Puerto Rico, the basket case of Caribbean default dramas. When the three major credit rating firms cut it to junk in 2014, the island's debt burden had reached about 74% of gross domestic product. The government dipped into its savings to repay bonds, and in 2016, Governor Alejandro Garcia Padilla defaulted. How Puerto Rico managed to dig a deep financial hole. Quick take. Puerto Rico's woes were compounded the next year when Hurricane Maria killed almost 3,000 people. Some nations may face another gut-wrenching expense this year. Weather forecasters predict above-average storms during the June to November hurricane season. S&P already rates the Bahamas, Dominican Republic, Jamaica, Barbados and Belize in junk territory. Fitch Ratings cut Aruba to non-investment grade earlier this month. Several of them have debt ratios surpassing Puerto Rico's in 2014. On Tuesday, a United Nations Office for Latin America and the Caribbean warned that the region will contract by 5.3% in 2020, the worst ever, with GDP slipping by 6.8% in the Bahamas, 5.8% in Barbados and 5.3% in Jamaica. Frontier markets, including some Caribbean nations, are particularly exposed to the pandemic, according to Whitney Baker, the New York-based founder of Totem Macro, which advises funds overseeing more than $3 trillion. Their ability to issue dollar bonds in a yield-starved world has enabled them to run deficits, she said. Now they're reliant on something that's going away, at the same time they actually need more resources. Completely dependent. Like many of its Caribbean neighbors, Aruba's main airport is closed to the roughly 2 million foreign tourists who visit each year. Its beachside resorts are shuttered and the streets are practically empty. Dangi Oduber, the nation's tourism minister, said he's never seen the island so desolate. We are completely dependent on tourism, he said in an interview. Oduber estimated that more than a quarter of the island's population of about 100,000 will lose their jobs. Aruba is pushing to diversify the nation's economy with the cultivation of medicinal cannabis as well as new agricultural and infrastructure projects, he said. If social distancing remains necessary for the next 2 years, as some research suggests, nations such as Aruba may be forced to divert dwindling reserves toward social services rather than foreign creditors. We do not have the necessary savings to pay our debt, Oduber said. There are a few buffers to potentially stave off default. Oduber said the Netherlands, which still handles much of the island's foreign affairs, is willing to provide a bullet loan without interest to Aruba. It's possible the UK could provide similar support to Bermuda and Turks and Caicos. Other nations may lack that luxury and depend on the IMF as a lender of last resort. People are afraid and government support will be necessary to boost up these regions until we enter a new normal, said Sylvia Jablonski, managing director of capital markets at Direction in New York. That new normal may be further away than we think.
That news item there from Bloomberg, written by Ben Bernstein. It's titled Puerto Rico 2.0. Wall Street warns of Caribbean debt crises. Well, that's all we have for the first segment of Voices. We'll bring you the headline news. We'll be back with you just about 12:30 or close to that time to continue on Voices on Win FM 98.9. Stay tuned. The headline news is coming up now.
You found the sound. 98.9. Win FM.
We now bring you the Win FM Headline News. The Win FM Headline News is brought to you by Caribbean Alliance, KDP Enterprises, The Grange, Carib Brewery, CNC Trading.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib, it's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
Did you know that the Grange Healthcare Facility is the first purpose-built non-governmental healthcare organization on St. Kitts, offering 24-hour nursing, therapeutic, and residential care for older adults? It's situated at Otley, 7 miles east of Vastair in beautifully landscaped surroundings. The Grange has a team of highly trained professionals and provides care that's rated as being comparable with UK and North American standards. The Grange offers varied accommodation to suit your individual needs, and our all-inclusive packages make the cost of care per hour the most competitive on the island. Services include convalescent care for all ages, daycare facilities for older adults, rehabilitation services, and training and continuing education for healthcare providers. For more information, call 466-5525 or 465-8020, fax 466-8221, or email thegrangehealth@gmail.com, or visit our website at www.grangehealthcarefacility.com.
Protect your lifestyle with Caribbean Alliance Insurance. Till you walk with a low reputation and service for second to none. Securing you is our mission. People that you can trust, your business property, we got you covered. Motor or personal, whatever it is, we got you covered. 130 years in this business, we've got you covered. For all your insurance needs, visit or call us at 465-2631 or 469-5303. Delia Walwyn, people you can trust.
Without limits, happy and free. The skin you're in with no apology. The one to seize the day. Grab an LLB. Live, love, be. With LLB. Live, love, be. Live, love, be. Be who you know you can be. Grab an LLB. Live, love, be. Angostura, lemon, lime, and bitters. Live, love, be.
Shipping your cargo shouldn't be a hassle. It can be as easy as a single call to Amerijet International, your worldwide cargo transportation solution. We provide all the services you need to ship your goods anywhere in the world. Whether your shipment is fresh, frozen, large or small, alive or hazardous, you can count on Amerijet to deliver it safe and sound. Amerijet International, by land, sea or air. We get it there. For more information, visit us online at www.amerijet.com or call us at KDP Enterprises, telephone number 466-9595.
The Tourism Ministry is looking ahead post-COVID-19 to recoup lost ground. That's being made clear by the Permanent Secretary in that ministry, Colin Henry Morton, noting that the pandemic has destabilized the hospitality and tourism sector. Ms. Henry Morton recommends that strategic and innovative planning and action should be embarked on instead of going into paranoia, panic or pessimism mode.
We want to assure all concerned that operations at the Ministry of Tourism and at the St. Kitts Tourism Authority have not ground to a halt. We continue to dialogue with cruise and airline partners and to give them every assurance that our tourism stakeholders are preparing to continue delivering world-class service post-COVID-19. We have adopted a very balanced and systematic approach to managing this crisis as it unfolds, while putting systems in place to welcome our guests and ensure a smooth return to a vibrant and competitive industry as soon as it is safe to do so. Our marketing activities continue, focusing on the following: ongoing crisis communication, so we update the travel and tourism industry via press releases, our website, e-blasts to our databases as per NEOC briefings. For example, we give the number of confirmed and recovered cases, travel alerts and restrictions, airline flights, and information related to the state of emergency, lockdown, and release days.
Using the COVID-19 daily briefing to promote the tourism message, Permanent Secretary Henry Morton indicated that what she described as inspirational marketing is also ongoing through posts and destination marketing videos. She is encouraging businesses and other sectors to use the downtime provided by the virus to engage in positive activity that can prepare them for moving forward after the coronavirus is no longer a threat. Labour Party leader Denzil Douglas has accused the government of attempting to sully the name and reputation of SKNLP chairman Terence Drew over the issue of test kits that were donated by Dr. Drew. The donation was acknowledged by Junior Minister for Health Wendy Phipps, who indicated at the time that the government would have difficulty using them. Dr. Douglas says what was intended to underscore the opposition's efforts to play its role in helping fight the COVID-19 pandemic was shunned by the authorities.
I just want to emphasize tonight that our people should not listen to the propaganda that is being spread, seeking to malign and demonize Dr. Drew's and the Labour Party's efforts to provide some 5,000 test kits to the health authorities. The Guangzhou Wonderful Biotech Corporation, which manufactures these kits in China, is a point of care testing leader that supplies these kits to over 140 countries around the entire world. 140 countries around the world. It has research and development centers in Tokyo, in Guangzhou, in Shenzhen, and of course in San Diego, in the United States of America. These test kits are also being widely used here in the Caribbean region, in countries such as St. Vincent and the Grenadines and Grenada. And they have all been FDA approved.
Minister Wendy Phipps had described the Terence Drew test kits offering as a small donation of 19 test kits. She said at the time that unfortunately the Ministry of Health could not act on that donation because the kits were written in Mandarin Chinese. Her explanation also included the assertion that, quote, we have no way of verifying the efficacy of the tests that can be done, so for the time being we have basically shelved the donation, end quote. Doctors Douglas and Drew are insisting that the test kits are bona fide kits intended to assist in the testing process in the Federation. Dr. Douglas contends that instead of accepting the help offered, the donors are being demonized.
A CNN report recently published March 30, 2020, indicates that the antibody test kit supplied by Wonderful Biotech is one of the 5 rapid test kits approved by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, the FDA, to detect COVID-19. You can go to these websites and read the articles for yourselves. And so I want to make it clear, absolutely clear, once and for all, that the articles being circulated as sponsored ads, note as I said, as sponsored ads on social media, are absolutely false.
The Health Ministry's position on the matter has not changed. Telecommunications company Flu says it is playing a critical role in helping keep the nation connected as St. Kitts and Nevis battles the coronavirus pandemic. The company's efforts in that regard were articulated Wednesday by Flo's acting general manager, Michael Davis. He says Flo remains committed to its mission to keep its customers connected while ensuring the safety of the company's employees and their families.
As a company, we are deeply invested in the communities that we serve, and now more than ever, we understand the importance of providing a reliable network to enable our government, healthcare providers, educators, and businesses to maintain vital connectivity to their operations and stakeholders. Whether it is working from home via virtual meeting platforms, learning digitally for students now being homeschooled, or simply helping to ease moments of anxiety by connecting our customers to families and friends, home and abroad, we are all in this together, and we are happy to be your partners in ensuring that you stay connected.
The Flo official itemized some of the actions taken by the company to date.
Initiating work-from-home initiatives, we provided customers with option to access our services even on lockdown days from the safety of their homes via our WhatsApp virtual store. This service can be accessed by sending your requests via WhatsApp to 669-3569 for customers in St. Kitts and 668-3569 for customers in Nevis. We have enhanced our cleaning and hygiene protocols across our facilities, including our 2 retail stores. We have installed and are installing physical barriers in our retail stores with protective equipment for our staff and customers, and we have been vigorously enforcing the social distancing protocols. We continue to promote our online and digital payment tools to ensure that we provide our customers with a safe option to pay their bills. These include the MyFlow mobile app, which allows our customers to access their bills, make payment, log faults, subscribe to further services, and customers can also access our payment portal by visiting myflow.discoverflow.co, where you can access your bill, sign up for your e-bills, and also make payments to your bills.
Flo's Michael Davis said that the company was also participating in the ongoing homeschooling initiative by offering, among other services, free Flo study by all students in the Federation. Davis was one of the presenters at the COVID-19 daily briefing on Wednesday.
Director at the Department of Marine Resources, Mark Williams, says the coronavirus provides an opportunity for officials to reshape the local fisheries sector. Speaking at Tuesday's NEOC media brief, Director Williams disclosed that the Federation has a dependency on imported fish over local catch.
St. Kitts and Nevis has always been concerned with food and nutrition security, and the COVID-19 pandemic has only increased the alert levels within the fisheries sector. Having enough fish protein to feed our nation is of great concern. The Federation average total consumption is 1,300 tons annually, with 850 tons imported and 450 tons produced locally. This shows that 2/3 of our fish we consume is imported. With the onset of the pandemic, countries are reluctant to export fish due to their own food and nutrition security concerns, and all our livelihoods have been threatened as a result of the precautions that we must take.
The director raised a concern about the standards in labeling of imported fish.
When fish is imported, we run the risk of purchasing mislabeled fish. For example, the Federation consumes large amounts of cod, locally known as saltfish, and grouper. However, we have seen instances where haddock is swapped for cod, and swai, a freshwater fish with a minimal nutrition value, is swapped for grouper. The motivation for misleading consumers is purely financial, as cheaper fish can be passed off for more expensive ones. Deliberate mislabeling across all seafood sectors is estimated to involve billions of pounds in sales annually.
Going further, Williams spoke to enhance fish being passed off on the international market.
Many foreign fish producers have genetically modified their fish to maximize yields and use antibiotics to keep the fish healthy until the time of sale. Furthermore, it is near impossible to determine the effects on our health. Nonetheless, we can be sure about the fish caught by our fishers. Our fisheries are still almost as pristine as they were since the beginning of time. Our fishers do not congregate at sea. They do not use antibiotics. They do not release nutrients in the sea, causing dead zones or algae blooms, like what we have seen with the sargassum seaweed. Fishers are here to earn a living in order to maintain their families and provide us with the best source of protein. As a result, some initiatives have been proposed to support the livelihoods during this pandemic and establish a more robust fisheries sector while minimizing food and nutrition security concerns.
The director outlined measures to assist farmers during the pandemic.
These initiatives are the selling of gear at 50% of cost. This includes fish trap wire, fishing hooks, fishing lines, rope, etc. The ability to purchase fuel at duty-free prices, and the construction of fish aggregating devices to target large pelagics like tunas, marlins, kingfish, and mahi-mahi. Other proposals to sustain and develop the industry are still being considered, such as economic support for the fisheries sector and fishing permits for night fishing and fishing on full curfew days. We therefore encourage fishers to continue submitting proposals to the departments in St. Kitts and in Nevis for consideration in the industry stimulus package. To the general public, we urge you to maintain strong support for the fishers, for your fish protein needs, and please, we all, fishers included, abide by the COVID-19 regulations with respect to physical and social distancing, hygiene standards, and having the appropriate safety gear.
Director at the Department of Marine Resources, Mark Williams.
Barbados Today.
In a separate forum earlier today, Prime Minister Mia Mottley made a strong case for a new global leadership initiative to be set up post-COVID-19 to better respond to the needs of vulnerable small island developing states. She made the call during a live television interview with Christiane Amanpour on CNN International.
75 years ago, the United Nations was formed on the 24th of October. We used the opportunity of post-World War II to create a number of vital institutions to be able to bring countries together to protect the most vulnerable, the weakest among us. We also used it to create the Bretton Woods institutions, which we're relying on. But we need to repurpose these organizations, and in having a global leadership initiative, make sure that we are really reacting to what is real. We are told that we can access concessional funding or grant funding only if we have historic per capita incomes that are below certain levels. Well, Christiane, that is like telling me that I should use my blood pressure reading from 2 years ago to determine whether I'm vulnerable tonight to a stroke. It's absolutely futile. And we've been carrying on this thesis and argument for over 30 years. We also had problems when the WTO was formed. We recognized, for example, that much of our domestic production would shut down and it would make us more open. When we had 9/11, we had other issues that were imposed on us on a one-size-fits-all prescription. Now we have this pandemic. We need global leadership similar to what we had post-World War II to be able to recognize that we need a plan that protects not just the strongest among us, but also the most vulnerable. And what should we really be spending money on? Does it make sense to continue to build large military constructs when, as a result of a mosquito or a pandemic, our populations can be put at risk? doesn't make any sense.
In other news this Wednesday, a seventh person died from COVID-19 in Barbados. The deceased is a 78-year-old Barbadian woman who arrived on the island on March 12. The patient, who had diabetes and hypertension, was on a ventilator for 33 days.
Cecil Actil, NBC Prime. The Cashews Constituencies Council, CCC, announced that employees will be sent home temporarily in the wake of the recent COVID-19-led economic disruptions. CCC Communications and Press Manager Jason Hollinseed stated that memos to that effect have already been sent to staff through their shop stewards and trade unions. The temporary layoffs will be for a 3-month period effective May 1st, 2020. Press and Communications Manager Jason Hollinseed also disclosed that the CCC was placed in a difficult situation. The Press and Communications Manager also disclosed that the CCC was placed in a difficult situation.
The economic hemorrhaging, we all know, is taking a toll globally. Unfortunately, we in St. Lucia have not been spared. We have been assessing the situation, and we have been intensely strategizing, seeking options. However, we have exhausted all alternatives, and some indicators we see a significant reduction in the taxes and the revenues coming into council.
According to Hollinseed, the crisis also impacted on vendors and councils.
We need to take into consideration that we all are affected by the impact of COVID-19. However, it provides council with the avenue to come back fitter and better. And, we sympathize with all affected because we all at council are affected by the impact of COVID-19. Let's take into consideration that these measures, the layoffs, are temporary measures, and we look forward to resuming as per normal when we get through this extraordinary situation.
The Press and Communications Manager disclosed that the management of the city, in terms of its upkeep and sanitation, will not be compromised. The workers' bargaining agent, the National Workers' Union General Secretary, stated that lengthy discussions were held previously regarding the fate of employees during the crisis. Johan Haywood stated that a recommendation was made to approach government with regards to the matter, and the CCC welcomed the move.
We indicated to them that if you have a situation where you need X amount of money to carry you through the next few weeks or the next few months, we can make that presentation to government and, see what support they can give, because, again, you're dealing with an essential service. The CCC accepted the recommendation. In fact, the Chief Executive Officer welcomed that idea and he embraced it wholeheartedly. He indicated that they will immediately go on and do their projections for the next 6 months, submitted to the union in anticipation of this tripartite meeting with the government, so that at least we can secure the jobs and people will continue to work as normal. So what we did, and ostensibly we thought they were doing it as well, is to see how best we could to get that meeting going as quickly as possible, hopefully sometime this week or next week. And lo and behold, we're hearing, and we saw a letter yesterday from the very CCC saying that they're not in agreement with the recommendation and position that we articulated at the meeting last week, and that they will be going ahead and laying off workers effective May 1st, 2020.
The National Workers' Union indicated that the CCC has reneged on an amicable meeting in the change of position and was not in the best interest of good industrial relations. The NWU has raised concerns. The NWU has also raised concern with regards to the sanitation of the city. Cecil Actil, NBC Prime.
This is Al Jazeera.
The Libyan warlord Khalifa Haftar has announced a ceasefire during the fasting month of Ramadan. Hours earlier, his forces launched a rocket attack on a medical facility. Haftar's forces have been trying to take the capital Tripoli for a year now. Al Jazeera's Charlotte Bellis reports.
This is the aftermath of a Grad missile hitting a health complex near Tripoli on Wednesday morning. One person died and at least 5 were injured. Libya's UN-recognised government laid blame with warlord General Khalifa Haftar. Yet hours later, Haftar's spokesman announced a ceasefire for the Muslim holy month of Ramadan.
We hereby announce the cessation of all military operations on our part, and any breach of the cessation of military operations by terrorist militias will face an immediate and very severe response.
What he labelled a terrorist militia is actually the UN-recognised government. This week it accused Haftar of a coup after he declared himself leader by popular mandate and ended peace talks with them. The UN reacted sternly.
We stand against any unilateral measures that would put in jeopardize the political process.
Haftar controls eastern Libya. A year ago, he launched an offensive for the west, and with it, Libya's capital, Tripoli. But his forces have been pushed back in recent weeks.
The war needs to stop. General Haftar is not going to win Libyan war and wind up as a dictator of all Libya. Libyans did not rise up against Gaddafi in 2011 to replace Gaddafi with a new dictator.
It's an intractable conflict, with both Haftar and the Tripoli government receiving arms and support from multiple nations, fuel that feeds the conflict. One of Haftar's closest allies is the United Arab Emirates. Sources told Al Jazeera that a senior Abu Dhabi delegation, including the Crown Prince's brother, flew into Khartoum on Tuesday to discuss how Sudan and the UAE could further support General Haftar. Sudanese officials deny the report.
The UAE is playing a role bigger than its size by its constant interference in the affairs of a number of Arab countries. We need to consider that we, in Libya, are in a state of war against the UAE.
The United Arab Emirates was also outed on Wednesday in a Human Rights Watch report for a drone strike on a biscuit factory near Tripoli in November. 8 civilians were killed and nearly 30 wounded.
This is not the first time that it appears that UAE is firing from drones in Libya at targets with disregard for civilians.
Last year, General Haftar called Ramadan the month of jihad. This year, it's the month of peace. Whether or not his cessation of hostilities lasts, his ambitions to control Libya fully remain. Charlotte Bellis, Al Jazeera.
The UAE's foreign ministry is calling on all sides in the Libyan conflict to come to the table for a political solution. It's released a statement condemning Turkish intervention and praising the warlord Khalifa Haftar for what it calls combating terrorism. Well, here's a look at the situation on the ground in Libya, which has been divided by warring factions since the overthrow of longtime leader Muammar Gaddafi 9 years ago. The various forces back one of 2 rival administrations. The UN-recognized government in the capital Tripoli controls the area here in blue. The warlord Khalifa Haftar, who formed the self-declared Libyan National Army, controls the areas in red. Fayez al-Sarraj is Prime Minister of the Government of National Accord. That's the UN-backed one in Tripoli, while Haftar's administration is based in the eastern city of Tobruk. His forces have been trying to capture the capital Tripoli for a year, but haven't succeeded beyond the city's outskirts. Sami Hamdi is the editor-in-chief of the International Interest, a current affairs analysis magazine with particular focus on the Middle East. He says that the timing of this ceasefire isn't just about Ramadan.
He's calling a ceasefire now because the tide of the Tripoli offensive has altered. Now his 2 main bases, the spine of the Tripoli offensive is now under siege. That's Watiya Air Base, where the supplies come in from the east, and Tarhuna. Both of these bases are holding out, but it seems Haftar is concerned that he might not be able to hold on to them for much longer. But more importantly, Haftar believes that domestically his situation in the east needs attention. He has to cement his authority in the east. He responded first by making a unilateral declaration saying that he would rule Libya by popular mandate. This was a bid to cut off any potential opposition that might take advantage of the reversal in the offensive. There is talk that he is pursuing some sort of constitution, a quasi-state, a government. This idea of trying to create a stable government to present as opposed to the chaotic government, as he wants to put it, in the GNA. And I think this is the trajectory in which he is going, and this is why we're seeing this ceasefire here. He wants to protect Al-Watiya and Tarhuna. He wants to regroup. He wants to go clean up the mess in the east. Aqil Saleh is trying, the head of the House of Representatives, has been trying to get tribes to go on his side against Haftar. Haftar wants to put a pause to the Tripoli offensive, go clean up the mess before he returns at a later date to renew the offensive.
This is the Carib Update News Service. I'm Wendy Chateau reporting. Barbados announces phased reopening of government and business operations there. This is the big story we're tracking this hour on the AM edition of Newsbreak for Thursday, April 30, 2020. Details to this and more straight ahead. Now for the details. Barbados' Prime Minister Mia Mottley has announced a phased reopening of government and business operations, ending a mandatory 24-hour lockdown imposed on April 3 amid the global coronavirus pandemic. The phased reopening will begin on Monday. Under the phased resumption, the sale of alcohol will be allowed, but no consumption will be permitted in public. There will also be limited reopening of beaches from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. daily. Meanwhile, effective Monday, May 4, online classes will resume for the island's students. The public was also advised to wear masks and to practice social distancing. She said since the onset of COVID-19, 80 people have tested positive and 7 have died. According to Mottley, the government has spent $37 million on the healthcare system and is projected to lose $225 million in tax revenue. However, she said the island's reserves remain healthy at $0.8 billion. Jamaica's Minister of Health and Wellness, Dr. Christopher Tufton, has reported 32 new cases of COVID-19 within the past 48 hours, bringing the total number of infections in the country to 396. Of the new cases, 15 are associated with the Alarica call center in Portmore, St. Catherine, 11 are contacts of confirmed cases, 1 is imported, and 5 are under investigation. Tufton informed in an update from the ministry's office in New Kingston. The St. Vincent and the Grenadines government has denied a United States-based airline permission to land, dashing hopes that an estimated 300 nationals employed with a U.S.-based cruise line would have arrived home on Thursday. The sailors employed with the Royal Caribbean Cruises have already spent several weeks in isolation aboard cruise ships amidst the coronavirus pandemic. They are now expected to sail home rather than fly, and it will be weeks before they set sail, the cruise line has said. Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves, speaking on a radio program, said that his government would not permit the Miami airline to land 2 planes carrying the soldiers because Kingstown had no information about their health status. The government has been in negotiations with Royal Caribbean to get the company to pay for 14 days quarantine for each sailor, estimated at $150 EC per night. This is Newsbreak from the Carib Update News Service. In more news, U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo has criticized South Africa and Qatar for accepting doctors from Cuba to battle the coronavirus, accusing the island of profiting from the pandemic. Cuba's globe-trotting doctors have long been a source of diplomatic soft power and pride for Havana, but Washington says the medical workers only benefit the government and has encouraged them to defect. South Africa, which like Qatar has friendly relations with the United States, on Monday announced that 217 Cuban doctors had arrived in the country, which has the highest number of coronavirus infections in Africa. Cuba has sent doctors to more than 20 countries during the COVID-19 pandemic, including hard-hit Italy as well as Mexico. France has also authorized Cuban teams to help in its overseas territories. Cuban President Miguel Diaz-Canel reacted to Pompeo on Twitter, writing, quote, "The United States is being deliberately deceitful by attacking Cuba's international medical cooperation with lies and slander," unquote. Also, U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo on Wednesday called on countries to deny overflight rights to Mahan Air, an Iranian airline under U.S. sanctions, which he said recently delivered cargoes to the Venezuelan government. The United States maintains punishing sanctions on Iran and has hit Venezuela with similarly tough measures in an effort to force Socialist President Nicolas Maduro from power. Speaking at a State Department news conference, Pompeo said aircraft of privately owned Mahan Air, Iran's largest airline, in recent days delivered supplies to Maduro's government. Pompeo said that countries, including those in the Caribbean, should deny Mahan Air overflight rights. The Trump administration has waged a campaign of sanctions and diplomatic measures against Venezuela in an attempt to oust Maduro, whose 2018 re-election was considered a sham by most Western countries. The U.S. Department of Transportation has acceded to a request by Spirit Airlines to suspend service to Puerto Rico due to current flight restrictions, but it deferred actions on the two airports in the U.S. Virgin Islands. Spirit also wanted to drop its flights to St. Thomas and St. Croix, but regulators have said not just yet. JetBlue has also applied to have two destinations in Puerto Rico be dropped for the time being. The New York-based airlines want its services to Aguadilla and Mercedita to be suspended. The Jamaica Tallawahs says its decision not to retain Chris Gayle for the 2020 Caribbean Premier League season was purely business, dismissing claims by the iconic 2020 batting star that politics and assistant coach Ramnaresh Sawan led to his switch to St. Lucia Zouks. Days ago, Gayle, who captained the Jamaica-based franchise to the 2013 and 2016 CPL titles, accused Sawan of undermining him. He claimed that the assistant coach was the central influence that led to him not being retained by the Tallawahs. However, in a statement on Wednesday expressing disappointment at Gayle's comments, the management of the franchise said the decision was made collectively by the ownership and management team, which did not include Ramnaresh Sawan and based purely on business and cricketing reasonings. These are some of the top stories from around the Caribbean this hour. This has been Newsbreak from the Carib Update News Service, the Caribbean's newsroom. Reporting this hour, I am Wendy Chateau.
Hello, how are you? Welcome to Work Life India from the BBC World Service. Namaste. I'm Divina Gupta, and Work Life India comes from Delhi, where the world's largest coronavirus lockdown continues. But this week, some restrictions on the movement of people and goods were lifted in relatively safer zones in India. Some businesses were allowed to reopen and agricultural activities partially resumed. The focus is on restarting the stalled economy and creating jobs. But will it yield results? We talked to prominent industrialists on what they need to do. Budding entrepreneurs share challenges of staying afloat. We discuss India's latest protectionist policy to tighten investments from China. And we have a behind-the-scenes preview of how India is planning to bail out its industries. So join our conversation on how India might get back to business after the coronavirus lockdown. That's after the news.
Hello, this is Julie Candler with the BBC News. The head of the European Central Bank has warned that the coronavirus pandemic has caused the Eurozone economy to shrink at a rate never seen before. Christine Lagarde told reporters that it could shrink by as much as 12% this year.
The spread of the coronavirus and the associated containment measures have literally halted economic activity to a large extent across the globe. And we're seeing a rapid evolution of the economic effects of the necessary containment measures in our area. Entire sectors of the economy, to a large extent, were simply shut down. And it will continue to be reflected. The hard numbers are just beginning to come.
Preliminary figures have already shown EU economic growth falling at a rate of more than 3% in the first quarter of 2020. The US Labour Department has reported that more than 3.8 million people submitted new claims for unemployment benefits last week. The coronavirus outbreak has now led to 30 million Americans losing their jobs since March. Michelle Fleury reports from New York.
The number of Americans filing for unemployment benefits shows the devastating impact the coronavirus pandemic is having on the American economy. Since March 21st, nearly 1/5 of the nation's working-age population have made a claim. The states that saw the biggest weekly jump were Florida, Connecticut and West Virginia. But the tide does appear to be slowing as small businesses start to receive federal aid and states begin to reopen. The report from the US Labour Department follows news that the economy in the first quarter suffered its sharpest contraction since the financial crisis of 2008.
The Red Cross in Somalia says it fears the true number of people with coronavirus is much higher than the official figure of 582. The ICRC's health coordinator for Somalia said there would be a large number of new cases in the coming weeks. The country's healthcare system has been devastated by 3 decades of conflict and is unable to cope. Residents of a scenic alpine valley in Austria are appealing for border controls with Germany to be lifted after the coronavirus saw it cut off from the rest of the country. About 2,000 people have signed a petition addressed to the two countries' governments. Bethany Bell reports from Vienna.
Kleinwalsertal, which describes itself as the most beautiful cul-de-sac in the world, can only be reached by a road from Germany. Locals say their valley has been effectively cut off from the rest of Austria ever since border restrictions were brought in because of coronavirus. Now a petition has been launched asking for restrictions to be eased. The petition says that no one has currently tested positive for COVID-19 in the valley.
World News from the BBC. Thousands of workers in Bangladesh have been returning to the capital Dhaka from their villages as many clothes factories have restarted their operations. Local media say men and women have been boarding trucks, vans and even walking in large numbers to return to factory areas. Smokers of tobacco products in South Africa have reacted with fury at the government's decision to continue a total ban on cigarette sales because of the COVID-19 pandemic. The tobacco industry says it will begin legal action. A court in China has sentenced a former journalist to 15 years in prison after finding him guilty of causing trouble, bribery and extortion. Chen Jiren was once a respected political commentator and blogger who had often criticised government officials in his native province of Hunan. The court said Mr. Chen had made up information he published online and had also threatened Chinese officials and entrepreneurs that he would publish fabricated articles about them unless they paid him not to. One of the largest pieces of moon rock to be found on Earth is expected to fetch more than $2 million at a private auction in London today. The rare piece of a lunar meteorite is the 5th largest moon rock on Earth. James Hislop is the head of science and natural history at the auctioneers Christie's.
It is an actual piece of the moon. It's about the size of a football, so a bit more oblong than that, larger than your head. It weighs just under 13.5 kilos. Of all the known meteorites, about 1 in 1,000, so 0.1% of them are lunar meteorites. So it's an incredibly rare and special object for us to have here at Christie's.
The moon rock was found in the Sahara Desert, and its lunar origins were eventually authenticated by scientists who analysed the mineral composition of moon rocks brought back from NASA's Apollo space program in the 1960s and 70s. BBC News.
That was the Win FM headline news, brought to you by KDP Enterprises, Caribbean Alliance, Carib Brewery, CNC Trading, The Grange.
Shipping your cargo shouldn't be a hassle. It can be as easy as a single call to Amerijet International, your worldwide cargo transportation solution. We provide all the services you need to ship your goods anywhere in the world. Whether your shipment is fresh, frozen, large or small, alive or hazardous, you can count on Amerijet to deliver it safe and sound. Amerijet International, by land, sea or air. We get it there. For more information, visit us online at www.amerijet.com or call us at KDP Enterprises, telephone number 466-9595.
Protect your lifestyle with Caribbean Alliance Insurance. Till you walk with a local reputation and service for second to none. Securing you is our mission. People that you can trust, your business, property, we got you covered. Motor or personal, whatever it is, we got you covered. 130 years in this business, we got you covered. For all your insurance needs, visit or call us at 465-2631 or 469-5303. Dealey Walwyn, people you can trust.
We're different. We're 98.9. 98.9. Win FM.
Flo's new combo plan, the people's plan. Combo. Got a new combo plan. You can call anyone, no matter which network you dey on. Just use your Flo.
I want a combo, but not for my belly. I feel me cell phone, so me call anybody. Call Mr. Man, call Granny. On the island, Flo, come combo me.
Yes, there is no need for to force no more. Cause with Flo combo plan, you're paying less for more.
Flo got a new combo plan. You can call anyone, no matter which network you dey on. Just use your Flo.
Dial star 129 number sign to activate your combo plan today.
When is the last time that you've had lunch or dinner away from home? The ambience of Sweet Cane on Port Zante provides you with that touch. Sweet Cane daily specials include burgers, wraps, soup, and tasty seafood dishes. Sweet Cane also caters for events and special parties. Call our Sweet Cane hotline at 465-4345 or 665-7628. Sweet Cane, they've got the touch.
Win FM weather.
This is your local weather forecast brought to you by Sweet Cane. Local weather forecast for St. Kitts and Nevis, valid up to 8 a.m. tomorrow, Friday 1st May. Synopsis: a weak low-level trough in the vicinity of the northern Leeward Islands could heighten the chances for cloudiness and showers today and tonight across the islands. Today's weather partly cloudy with a 40% or moderate chance of showers. Tonight's weather partly cloudy with a 30% or low chance of showers. Winds are east to southeast at 15 to 28 kilometers or 8 to 15 knots. Seas 1.2 to 1.8 meters or 4 to 6 feet. Today's sunset 6:31 p.m. and tomorrow's sunrise 5:45 a.m. This has been your local weather forecast for St. Kitts and Nevis, valid up to 8 a.m. tomorrow. Brought to you by Sweet Cane.
When is the last time that you've had lunch or dinner away from home? The ambience of Sweet Cane on Port Zante provides you with that touch. Sweet Cane daily specials include burgers, wraps, soup, and tasty seafood dishes. Sweet Cane also caters for events and special parties. Call our Sweet Cane hotline at 465-4345 or 665-7628. Sweet Cane, they've got the touch.
Why not stay in? Turn off the alarm clock and sleep some more on your perfect mattress from Quartz. For the widest range of mattresses from the world's best brands, the best value guaranteed. Shop today and let our sleep experts help you to decide on the best option to suit your needs. At Quartz, we don't just sell mattresses, we're offering you the best night's sleep. So, sleep in a little on your new mattress from Quartz. Quartz, bringing value home.
How does it feel when you got that feeling? You got the flavor you love. How does it
for the flavor, the feeling you get when you taste every bite.
Flow helps you stay connected to what matters. Simple plans and a better network mean that you can enjoy 30 days of unlimited social messaging, 10 gigabytes of reliable data to use as you like, and 1,000 local anywhere calls and texts with the always-on prepaid plan, all for $100. Keep your number when you switch to St. Kitts' most reliable LTE network. Switch to Flow. It only gets better.
King Ocean, king of the Caribbean seas, announces king-size savings on shipments from Miami to St. Kitts. We have the best service and competitive rates on LCL and FCL cargo, including D&E containers, cars, heavy equipment, buses, boats, and barrels from Miami to St. Kitts. LCL pickup service anywhere in the U.S. Call local agents SL Horseman and Company Limited at 869-465-4086 or 869-662-5008 for further details. King Ocean's king-size savings on shipments from Miami to St. Kitts Nevis. King Ocean, king of the Caribbean seas.
Good afternoon. Time to welcome you now to the second segment of Voices on Win FM 98.9. I'm Clive Bacchus, and Voices, of course, the program where we discuss issues, we discuss events, and, of course, we invite analyses and, of course, insights and suggestions, recommendations, and descriptions as well on matters of local, regional, and international import. It's Voices on Win FM 90.9. Our numbers are 466-0989, 662-0989, 762-0989. We go to the phone lines, call you live and on the air. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mr. Bacchus.
Hi, good afternoon, Miss Henry. How are you doing this afternoon?
Man, I'm here giving God thanks. Just had a shower. That's a blessing, you know.
You bet.
Yeah, when you take into account, sometimes when you listen to the news, you feel guilty for some of the things we take for granted here, you know. And you listen to the world news and you hear this and drought and pestilence and locusts, and then you turn on the local thing and you always grumble. And we don't know how blessed we are, you know. So you never miss the water till the well run dry. Talk like my mother. My mother always had a parable. Eh? There was always one to fit the situation. Now, do you have any special topic?
No. It's open forum.
Oh, well, because I want to respond to something I heard yesterday, which has to do with Social Security and its future, and the demands made on it, and some statements that I keep hearing on the media about its prospects and where it is, but nobody said how it got there. Now, we have this, for some reason, it started 78. We still have not gotten the correct concept. It is not a life insurance. It's not money in the bank that you could borrow from. I don't know how many times you have to say that to people. It is there to give you protection if something happens. You know, I think maybe more of us need to go and buy life insurance and medical insurance. Now, in 2003, I go back to 2003, CARTAC, the Caribbean Technical Assistance thing. You know, I have talked about CARTAC. CARTAC was a group of consultants, basically economics, put up by the World Bank, IMF, and CDB, and maybe the UN. But it was a multi-international agency providing technical support to strengthen on-island policies, you know, the technical people, to help them to craft policies. Because the economists then, after 2001, were already showing signs that we were heading for recession. We had passed through the oil thing in 91 and hurricanes and whatnot. And after the Labour government had been in since 1995, and was having nothing but massive deficit after deficit. Deficit during hurricane, deficit during plenty. No cyclical change, there was no rebound. And a lot of activity was going on. They went in with the promise to build 5,000 houses. And of course, the source of the funds was the Social Security. They borrowed the money at very low interest rates, built the homes, did not ensure that people pay their mortgages. And so when the NHC should have been able to repay the loan out of its own revenues and from the social service levy, it could not do so because the government itself was taking the 8% levy, putting it directly into the consolidated fund and using it instead of putting it into NHC. So every time they were building houses back to Social Security, because I keep hearing these comments by people who know what they did. It was proposed since 2003, because I retired in 2003, that the pension age should move to 65. I hear people getting all excited. It's in 2003. That's about 17 years ago, Mr. Bacchus.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, because what we were having statistically, what you call falling live birth rates. The birth rate was falling. People were getting less. Because, you're pushing family planning. Our people, our women went out to work, more of them, factories. And, of course, if you're going to work every day, you can't be getting children every day. So women had more control over their body and their reproductive capacity. On the back of that, we keep having heavy out-migration. And our women were contributing to it by going abroad and getting these children, bring them back home, educate them at our expense, and when they reach the age at which they should be contributing to the Social Security, they are sent back to their motherland. Basically, usually the USA. So we're having heavy migration of the young people. It still continues. And the growing number of older persons, which of course means that unless you increase the pension age, we were retiring at 55. So you had all 7 years sitting down, 7 years for civil servants, in which they no longer were making contributions to the Social Security. So the income, of course, then we had some unscrupulous doctors who were giving people a lot of sick leave. Once they're in the opposition, it happened to all of them. Once they're in the opposition, they tend to dole out. It's like a machine. Workers come say, I'm sending you on sick leave. What do you? Oh, the doctor said that, you know what I mean? And then you see them in the afternoon, in the evening, in the morning. Putting pressure. Then the government failed to act. They failed to act. Up to now, it's supposed to go to 65, And everybody dodging it. And we're getting less children. Thank God for the Hispanics. I tell you to say it. Because we don't know what. We say, they're coming in and they're getting children, at least they're keeping them here. Because we need a new supply. We need more young people in the labor force if the Social Security is to sustain itself. You either going to work longer, make larger deductions, or get more children. I keep saying it. Man, I have 3 years. So my father said, I must get 2. I got 3. But these are things. And then you have the attack after you have this abuse of the Social Security money through this lot of massive construction, homes, they want building the infrastructure to say, well, these are going to generate income. I tell people, building homes is good, but after the construction of the home, sometimes that is the contribution to the economic activity. Massive home, they don't pace them. Every election come 5 years. Every 5 years, even now they start over 1,000 they're going to build. When they're going to build 2,000. Out of the same Social Security that's being bled. Poor investment in land. You have Beacon Heights. You had they went and they bought gut land in Old Road. They bought a bit of land up at Church Street, which is now a parking lot. That, in case people don't know what Social Security own. And if you look at and see at the persons that they're doing their business with, party people, they enrich the party members of the Social Security, a lot of poor land deals. And then you hear some righteous people who help bleed it. You then come down to 2011. I don't know if you remember because you were here. When there should have been a change in the Pension Act. Mr. Bacchus, you remember that?
Yes, I can.
Up to now, people still waiting for it. Civil service thing was to go to 62. These things were passed in the House, Deduction should have been increased. Where the money going to come from? Everybody delaying. The OECD said they were going to have a common pension act. I've heard about that. So we continue at 62. While the life expectancy, because that's what we're talking about, When Social Security was started in 1978, it was set at 62, which was above the life expectancy. So your chances of getting anything was slim. Because you were expected to die, the majority were expected to die in your 50s and so, before you get your hand on your money. We have now gone up into the 70s, Mr. Bacchus. So the life expectancy now has exceeded the pension age in the 70s. You know that? I want to keep you awake. You know that?
No, I'm listening to you. I'm just trying to...
The life expectancy, that means, what it means, a child born today is that's what it means for those who don't know, life expectancy. A child born today is expected to live at maybe 72, 74, 78, all the way up there, But you are expected to leave the labor force at 62, according to Social Security. You have nearly 10 years, There's a gap of nearly 10 years or more between the official retirement age and Social Security. And the life expectancy. Nowadays, everybody 100, 99, 95, but we still have 62. And of course, when we ran into the recession, poor economic planning and management, the then government turned to the Social Security and began to dump its debt on Social Security. So we're talking about, the expenditure exceed the income. How come? And of course, the Social Security they used to invest money overseas. Of course, even the central bank suffered when you had the financial crisis and the overseas market collapse. They were investing and getting nothing and getting negative. Social Security also. That is how, when the IMF said, look for other forms of investment. Because you're spending the money over there, you're getting nothing. The government borrowing the money, you're paying little to nothing. And yet you have to be paying these lot of maternity, this, but all something we're paying. All kind of benefits keep increasing. And so you come to the situation in 2008 to 2009, where the very IMF cried out and said, look, if they do not stop the raiding, the Social Security, it will run out. So this ain't nothing new like, oh, somebody went in and they thieved the money. Poor planning. Raiding, raid after raid. Imagine you have a good piece of land up on Church Street and go down in the gut next to the building that was flooded out and put on an annex. Right in the same gut. When you got a safe piece of land, then you build Beacon Heights, and what happened to it? I am still, you notice I don't hear anything about it? Well, Mr. Amory, I want to hear something. What is happening in Beacon Heights? Because millions went up there. Millions went down in the land, down in Stonefort, down in Old Road. You have heard, I heard Dwyer Astafan, can call his name, on his show. Read out a whole list of land deals where the prices were given by the official surveyor or engineer and overinflated down at the same Social Security. So when I hear the candidate for number 4 say he was the deputy leader, I want to know if he's willing to take some of the blame. And then you hear the self-righteous statements. We have been warned, and then we have the nerve to come on the radio and trying to say, those who do not contribute must get. And I suppose the speaker does not know, because she agrees to a certain extent that even until today, how much years after? 40-something years after? 42 years after. Social Security still down there paying non-contributory pension to people who work all their life, refuse to pay, and are collecting a check, whether $250 or $400 every month. My point is, at what point are we going to say enough is enough? At what point? This ain't a sorry party. That is why our country went bankrupt, you know. Dr. Douglas trying to run the economy. Every time 5 years come, they raid Social Security. People want a house. They want house, but they don't want mortgage. And politicians are weak. I don't care who. Very weak. To give somebody a house, and they are working, and they are not paying. And some of them have the nerve to say, well, me not pay because they give me the house. That house that you're in is connected to Social Security. Let me say it again. Lots of those houses that you're driving through the country that you all won't pay for, and in Bastia, those are connected to Social Security. It's all of you, not all of you, those of you who refuse to pay or wouldn't pay. You are the ones helping to destroy Social Security. Because what happened? When time to pay, they debt, and it's, by the way, it's a loan. They don't give them the money. They lend the government the money. Nothing is wrong lending the government. But when you don't pay, the government is forced to take its own recurrent revenue, the tax money, to pay Social Security. You put pressure. You are the ones, and now you hear all these lot of self-righteous speeches. You are the ones who encourage your supporters, who you know they're not paying. You are afraid to enforce. Mr. Bacchus, I did some research at the National Archives. When the British government built houses up at the village. You could see them. Down St. Johnson Avenue, there was a housing project in 1931 to 1933. They built homes in St. Johnson Avenue, Downing Street in Sandy Point, and later on at different places on People Land. They had 3 months, Mr. Bacchus. You had 3 months. The Colonial Office gave you 3 months. If you miss your payment, after 3 months, you were evicted. And the house was sold and turned over to somebody else. No, I am not saying just do 3 months. But you can't tell me yet some of you in the house 10 years. So you jump from party to party to make sure that you don't pay. You are the one and the leaders in Social Security who are intimidated by politicians. They stuck the board with party executive and party supporters, like how they put them on the bank to almost ruin the bank and make me lose all my savings. Party people on the board who know nothing about managing anything. And so when the minister say, God, I say, oh, well, we don't have a minister on the board. You don't need a minister on the board if you got your proxy. So when this government got to either make up its mind, if it's supposed to go to 65, it will have to go. Other countries it has gone. Because we get a lot of these half-cooked analysis. Oh, and the actuarial. What is long-term the actuarial say? Take somebody loan off of Social Security. When the government started to default, the debtor was given haircut. Social Security lost 30 million. All of your next gen SKN. Wipe off of the book 30 million they can't recover. Plus all of these investments that they do between them and their friends. The country suffer, but you expect if you bleed in something, at some point you become anemic. People are now saying they want unemployment benefits, but they want it free. So I am a Christian, you know. I thank God for wisdom. I never ever played. I became a Christian for all of you who don't know at the age of 13. And I'm not backing down. If I am a Christian, I'm supposed to have some sense. Some sense. So you can't be around it. Indiscipline. That is why we got all these children out there. Government feeding them and the strong father walking around. Indiscipline. If our men took their responsibility serious, we wouldn't have this lot of hunger, you know. Because a lot of them work on construction, not a cent for the children. And then we ball, oh, well, the government's supposed to feed them, and the government's supposed to close them. So what the father's supposed to do? We got to wake up. So the same Social Security that you all are crying about, you all turn around and demand the house. Now this government builds some, at least they're doing less raiding, but the raiding continues. Pay your mortgage, allow NHC or NEVIS, land and housing, whatever, to collect the revenue to pay Social Security loan. If you do that, then the government will have more to spend on other things. And so therefore, the threat of Social Security becoming insolvent is less, and the date is pushed back past Mr. Bacchus' pension. So it is we who are doing things to Social Security. We. When you make demands on the government and go down, $15 million. I heard the news about Dominica, where Dominica go and they explaining the process they went through. What about savings? I said already, you know. I come from poor people. I know what it is to come through. But we have got to reach a stage where we teach our people some discipline. Stop sorry for them. If you got a child and every time it think you want to come to you, the child's not going to grow up. Our people got to grow up. You're telling them Social Security is going to things. And yet, if they're serious about wanting it to survive, they must therefore encourage people to go and join and make the contribution. You can contribute as low as $20, Mr. Bacchus. As low as $20. You have big lawyer out there, you know. Big law firm and so. And if you see what some of them register at, because those are among the self-employed in case somebody don't know. Lawyers, accountants, it isn't just poor people. Some of your builders get $500,000 contract, $1 million contract. And one of them was arguing about, and if the employer did not, some of them wouldn't fill out the form for the people. The answer is simple enough. There's only one reason why they are delaying or refusing. They have not been making contributions on the workers' behalf. And some of them have the nerve to make deductions. And this party thing again, I have seen where the government have written out $1 million in delinquency contribution for party supporters. How do you expect this thing to survive? So when we're talking about, and Social Security may done by 2035, maybe you should encourage some children or encourage migration in. We might as well face it, we need more people here. Because we hold all kind of irrelevant debate. We need more people. Because the solution is easy, I tell people a long time, we either going to get more children or we're going to open the country and allow more people to come in to work and make contributions. And somebody made a remark about somebody ain't work here and they're collecting. Just in case, just for the information, there's a CARICOM agreement that once you paid contribution to Social Security in another country, you can collect in your pension in a next country in which you are residing. That country will transfer. They're not eating your money. Mr. Bacchus, you know that, right?
Yes, I know of the agreement as well.
I don't think people know. Because they say, and some people come from a thing and they're collecting. If you come from Guyana, Mr. Bacchus would have worked there, make his contribution. When time to collect down here, what he earned in Guyana would be added to what down there. They will send down his thing. So you might see check and say, Mr. Bacchus just come. And you see what he get in. We must educate ourselves. So this kind of fear and dread that we're ginning up. When we are the ones, some of them who are talking, they are the ones who have to raid it. And I want our people, if you live in the NHC houses, please pay. Pay NHC. It takes the burden off of the government who have to now go and find the money from the government tax revenue to pay. And you're lying down there. And then you're listening to people telling you, by next year, so you must go vote out somebody to put in the next somebody when you're still in pain. Well, I pray, look, I am getting my pension, and I want my pension until I die. All of you who are against people coming in, you better let them come in. You better equip yourself. We have all of this downtime. What are you doing? What have you done to improve your skill? Have you thought about retooling, becoming an entrepreneur? Didn't you arm things? Avenues out there. Once you could think every morning you wake up, they say don't pray. I read this article. Do not pray for riches. Ask God to give you ideas. Say, God, please give me a creative idea. Show me something I could do. Show me something I could do. You got people in America that's talking, and you should look away talking. No, Mr. Bacchus will send me a check. Mr. Bacchus will the check.
The borders are closed, man.
No, the ATM. The ATM empty. I mean, seriously, all those motivational speakers I listen to, Les Brown and E.T. and so, they're saying $20,000 to give some half an hour talk.
So how much you charging me? Here, you've been on now for about half an hour, So how much you charging me?
I'm waiting for Terry to calculate. Terry Adams, calculate. Tell me how much Mr. Bacchus owe me. Anyway, good afternoon, Terry. And I am serious. We are contributing to the problems. We are continuing. We have contributed. We are contributing to the social security problems. Some of those young ladies say, well, what, not child? If you want your pension, you have to go and get some children, to join the labor force. All right, then, Mr. Bacchus, thank you for the time.
Yes, well, that was the feature address, so don't worry. It's all good.
I'm going to send you the check. This is a bit one and counting ones on ones.
Okay, Miss Henry, thank you very much. All right, well, that was the feature address on today's program of Voices. Miss Henry, we have a new record, half an hour, yes, and very much on fire today. The phone lines were very quiet, so of course it was always good listening to Miss Henry. Of course, I can't substantiate some of the things that she was saying because I don't have the facts about that. And I know that there were some issues raised by her, but I don't know what the outcomes are in terms of whether there were investigations of any wrongdoing, and if there was any investigation, what was the finding? Because it's all well and good to describe situations, but there needs to be some level of certainty based on an investigation, because anyone can say anything. But can you prove what you're saying? And if you're alleging wrongdoing, then the next question will be, then how come no one has been prosecuted and no one has been challenged legally or otherwise for the allegations that you're making? At the moment, I'm not aware of anyone facing charges on those matters that you raise. And if it's not a wrongdoing, it could be that you don't like it, but it doesn't mean necessarily that it's illegal or that it's wrong. It's now time to say good afternoon once again to our proud sponsors of Voices on Win FM 98.9.
Why not stay in? Turn off the alarm clock and sleep some more on your perfect mattress from Quartz. For the widest range of mattresses from the world's best brands, the best value guaranteed. Shop today and let our sleep experts help you to decide on the best option to suit your needs. At Quartz, we don't just sell mattresses, we're offering you the best night's sleep. So, sleep in a little on your new mattress from Quartz. Quartz, bringing value home.
How does it feel when you got that feeling? You got the flavor you love. How does it feel when you know you're not dreaming? There is nothing above.
How you feel when things come together? How you feel when everything nice? How you feel when you savor the flavor, the feeling you get when you taste every bite?
Flo's new combo plan, the people's plan. Combo. Got a new combo plan. You can call anyone, no matter which network you dey on. Just use your Flow.
I want a combo, but not for my belly. I feel me cell phone, so me call anybody. Call Mr. Man, call Granny. On the island, Flow, come boom.
Yes, there is no need for two phones no more. Cause it Flow combo plan, you're paying less for more.
Flow got a new combo plan. You can call anyone, no matter which network you dey on. Just use your Flow.
Dial star 129 sign to activate your combo plan today.
King Ocean, King of the Caribbean Seas, announces king-size savings on shipments from Miami to St. Kitts. We have the best service and competitive rates on LCL and FCL cargo, including D&E containers, cars, heavy equipment, buses, boats, and barrels from Miami to St. Kitts. LCL pickup service anywhere in the U.S. Call local agents SL Horseman & Company Limited at 869-465-4086 or 869-662-5008 for further details. King Ocean's king-size savings on shipments from Miami to St. Kitts Nevis. King Ocean, King of the Caribbean Seas.
All right, good afternoon to you. You're live on Win FM.
Good afternoon, Mr. Bacchus.
Yes, Mr. McMahon. How are you doing?
Pretty good. Mrs. Henry was really dishing out some tough love today.
Yes, man.
You know,
She took the podium today.
Yeah. Stop feel sorry for them. One of the things that I was always conscious of when I was a civil servant is that, you know, I could sit in my nice, cushy job, an office, and didn't have to pound the pavement like ministers to beg for votes. And with that in mind, you know, there was always the tendency, well, they should have their way, regardless, okay? Because you didn't have to report directly to the people. They had to. So when your constituents come clamoring for favors, whether it's house and land or whatever else, I want to see the politician who's going to watch them in the eye and tell them no. Okay? She was right in so many respects. And one of the striking things she admitted is that these things happen and continue to happen under all administrations. And there's no end in sight. And we all know the problems. I mean, she recounted them. We all know how we got here. We all know successive governments packed the boards and top positions with their operatives and rubber stamps. So, of course, they will have their way, right? And this happens not just in Social Security, you know, Mr. Bacchus, in all entities that government control. Statutory corporations, Development Bank, National Bank, all of them. So the question is what to do. We know how we got here. We know what happens. Okay, I don't know why anybody would want to deny it. We know it shouldn't happen. We know that is not good governance. So the question is what to do. Okay? The type of solutions that Mrs. Henry was offering basically is just to fatten the cow some more so that the same type of politicians would raid it, would milk it. Okay? The thing is not so much to make Social Security, you know, more successful, not to give it more money, because what's the point of giving it more money, making sure it gets more money, whether by way of bigger deductions or increasing the time that you can contribute to Social Security before you start getting returns, increasing the age from 62 to 65 or whatever. Not by, for instance, making sure that Social Security money is not used as some cash cow for government for their pet projects. All that will, of course, make sure that Social Security is on a better footing. Okay? But that in itself would not solve the problem because those in control is still going to raid it. And so, Mr. Bacchus, what I'm suggesting is that rather than these cosmetic changes, what needs to be done is a comprehensive overhaul of the way we do business in government generally. And I'm talking here about good governance. If, for instance, every single board had to be staffed not just by the government appointees, but even one member of the opposition. Okay, they can keep the chairmanship and whatever other member, but at least one member of the opposition so that they know what is happening in that organization. These things would not happen. A lot of the things that happen would not happen because they would be accountable and there would be transparency. People will know exactly what's going on and there wouldn't be this secrecy in government. That is what needs to change. The way we do things, the governance of it. All right? It's not a matter of making Social Security more sustainable. Because you could give it all the money you want. You could pack it with all the money you want. Okay? If the politicians still continue to raid it, the result would be the same. It would always be under threat. Okay? And so I'm saying that just like in the other areas, Social Security is just one example. It's just a symptom of a wider problem, and that is the problem of governance. Right? We don't have proper governance. And until we have proper governance, we'll always be hamstrung by what is going on now. Okay? And the thing is, you can't say, well, you didn't contribute and so you shouldn't get any benefits. How you could tell a government that? How you could tell people who are without a job, maybe no savings, that you can't help them? You could stay all day and say, don't feel sorry for them. But the result of that would be mayhem in the society. And that's the last thing we want. So whether it comes from Social Security or elsewhere, I agree it should not have had to come from Social Security, but we have to do something to prevent that mayhem. Otherwise, what's the point? We may stay here and enjoy our pensions, but how can we enjoy our pensions when the rest of the society is crumbling? All right? You have to take some hard decisions. Okay? But it's the governance aspect that I think we need to... We keep running away from it, but that is what's going to change things. Not the cosmetic, having more babies so that more people contribute and that kind of thing. That's cosmetic. You got to get to the root of the problem. And the root of the problem is that when Social Security accumulates all these funds, okay, and when it doesn't invest them in a proper way, okay, it is bound to run into difficulties. Okay, so that's just my contribution. Good governance would be the solution to that problem.
All right, thank you very much for your contribution today. Much appreciated. You're tuned to Win FM is 90.9 on your dial. Just about time to wrap the program up. Well, I've heard the discussions before about how monies are being used and all that. I wish to reiterate the point I made earlier that we have not seen anyone facing any serious charges pertaining to any misuse of any funds or any misappropriation or malfeasance or misfeasance or anything. We have a lot of talk about this and that, but essentially, what are governments to do? Governments are trying to raise money for expectations of voters, and if there's any wrongdoing there, it has to be proven. It's all well and good to say, you think, but I am not aware of anyone from any of the boards anywhere facing any particular stress or fatigue. We are basically operating in a system in which there are many demands in government. Government look to see where they can raise revenue to fulfill those demands. And it's up to the people to decide, people being the non-governmental organizations, the government, the opposition, to decide on what are the alternatives, what are the recommendations. Because many people depend on the state heavily for a lot of things. And you can't say to the state, well, stop providing those things unless you offer an alternative. So the next time we meet, perhaps you can share with me your views on alternatives. If not this, then what? Well, that's our program for today. I'm Clive Bacchus, wishing you and yours all the very best indeed, saying thank you so much to our sponsors for another edition of Voices on Win FM 90.9. Our program, of course, broadcast live, stream live on YouTube, Facebook, and, of course, www.winnfm.com. Good afternoon to you.
Why not stay in? Turn off the alarm clock and sleep some more on your perfect mattress from Quartz. For the widest range of mattresses from the world's best brands, the best value guaranteed. Shop today and let our sleep experts help you to decide on the best option to suit your needs. At Quartz, we don't just sell mattresses, we're offering you the best night's sleep. So, sleep in a little on your new mattress from Quartz. Quartz, bringing value home.
How does it feel when you got that feeling? You got the flavor you love. How does it feel when you know you're not dreaming? There is nothing above.
How you feel when things come together? How you feel when everything nice? How you feel when you savor the flavor, the feeling you get when you taste every bite?
Flow helps you stay connected to what matters. Simple plans and a better network mean that you can enjoy 30 days of unlimited social messaging, 10 GB reliable data to use as you like, and 1,000 local anywhere calls and texts. With the always-on prepaid plan, all for $100. Keep your number when you switch to St. Kitts' most reliable LTE network. Switch to Flow. It only gets better.
King Ocean, king of the Caribbean seas, announces king-size savings on shipments from Miami to St. Kitts. We have the best service and competitive rates on LCL and FCL cargo, including D&E containers, cars, heavy equipment, buses, boats, and barrels from Miami to St. Kitts. LCL pickup service anywhere in the U.S. Call local agents SL Horseman and Company Limited at 869-4 54086 or 869-662-5008 for further details. King Ocean's king-size savings on shipments from Miami to St. Kitts Nevis. King Ocean, king of the Caribbean seas.